Hello everyone, back tuning into today's video. We're going to have a look at the weather for the next week to 10 days. So today's video is going to take us to around the 9th of January. So we're heading into the second week of January with the week to 10 day video update time frame. Now we'll be able to extend up beyond that with the extended GFS and ECM ensembles running to around a couple of weeks. I'll bring you up to date with what's going on in terms of the forecast for the temperature in the stratosphere at 10 HPA. And at the end of the video, we're going to have a look at the CFSV2 for the next month. So a lot to be going on with. Before I do anything else, though, I've got to say a big thank you to our latest PayPal donor. So we have had another donation through PayPal from Jason Brown. A big thank you to Jason Brown for becoming our latest PayPal donor. Thank you so much, Jason, for doing that. If you would like to become a donor for Gaz Service through PayPal, all you need to do is come to the Gaz Service PayPal page. You sign into your PayPal account and then give whatever donation you would like to Gaz Service through PayPal, and we'll give you a mention in videos. We'll give you a shout out and say thank you so much for doing that. As long as you want one, if you'd rather stay anonymous, there's a few people have chosen to do, but that's absolutely fine. Just leave a little note with your donation. But otherwise, you're going to get a mention in videos. You're helping us to pay for GazService.com and keep the content online. So a big thank you to all of our donors through PayPal. And a special thank you to Jason Brown for becoming our latest PayPal donor. Of course, there's also Patreon as well. So if you'd like to become a patron of the Gaz Service, I've got 67 patrons so far. So hello, a big thank you to our 67 patrons. If you would like to become a patron of Gaz Service, you have to come to the Gaz Service Patreon page, sign up for a Patreon account, assuming you don't already have one. I mean, you can give an ongoing monthly donation to Gaz Service. Can be anything from $1 a month upwards, and by doing that, you become a patron for Gaz Service. You'll pool in with all of the other patrons, and that's absolutely great. So thank you so much to all of our patrons and all of our donors as well. Big thank you to all of you, and we very much hope that you're enjoying the content that we're producing at Gaz. It's been a little bit quieter with content through December. That's mainly because we wanted to have a break after winter updates, and a few people have asked when the spring updates are going to be starting. They will begin in January. Also in January, we'll be bringing back Gaz Service Sunday Roundup. I think we'll probably start doing a few ensembles watches as well during a Sunday evening, perhaps in January. Winter updates will begin again in January as well. So gradually, all of the familiar updates will start again during January. So that will, of course, mean that we're going to be getting a little bit busier with the videos during January also. So just like to have a little bit of a break in December, really, and just wind things down a little bit in December after winter updates, but things will be cranking up again as we get through into January. Anyway, big thank you to all of our patrons, big thank you to all of our donors, and special thank you to latest donor Jason Brown. Thank you so much, Jason, for doing that. Right, so we're going to start off with the temperature in the stratosphere at 10 HPA. This is the very latest from MeteoCell in terms of the GFS forecast for the next couple of weeks. So the blue and purple colours that we've got here at 10 HPA in the stratosphere, one of the top levels of the atmosphere in the strat. So these blue and purple colours are the cold temperatures that we've currently got over the Arctic and the North Pole in the stratosphere, particularly on our side of the pole. On the Greenland to Scandinavian side of the Arctic, it's a little bit warmer over on the Pacific side of the Arctic. But that's the latest situation anyway. Let's run through, see what the GFS does. So it starts to generate quite a significant warming in the opening days of January across Siberia. That's not quite reaching sudden stratospheric warming temperature threshold levels, but it is very, very close to it there by the 6th of January. We've almost got in fact, we have actually got a tiny little area of red appearing. When the red colours appear, that's virtually reaching genuine sudden stratospheric warming temperature levels on this scale. Red is kind of like 8 degrees or more. I should say -8 degrees or more. So when the red colours appear, that is almost getting to sudden stratospheric warming type temperature levels. Restricted to Siberia at this point, not really moving into the Arctic and into the North Pole though. As we run through into the more extended range with the GFS. Again, this is the very latest GFS run, the 6 o'clock run. That's how things look. So we maintain that significant warming, just sort of a borderline, I suppose, temperature requirement for a southern stratospheric warming over Siberia, and gradually we start to move it towards Greenland as well. So you see the way those blue and purple colours, the cold temperatures, which is kind of like the polar vortex at its roots in the stratosphere. See where that's kind of being displaced over towards Siberia, perhaps, and northern parts of Russia, with the green and yellow colours moving in towards Greenland. So this is not yet a true southern stratospheric warming. It's not really reaching the required temperature for that, and it's not sort of destroying those blue and purple colours as we see when we get a genuine southern stratospheric warming. It looks like it's probably going to be strong enough to cause a bit of a displacement of the polar vortex at its roots in the stratosphere, though, and maybe a bit of a weakening of it as well. We'll have to see about that, but it's quite a significant event there that we've got going on across Siberia through the early part of January, but I like to see it a little bit stronger than that, really, in terms of the temperature scale. And also I like to see those blue and purple colours sort of being obliterated for a genuine southern stratospheric warming. So a bit of a PV displacement, I would have thought, from this, but not yet a genuine SSW. That's the GFS. Let's see what the ECMWF is showing. So this is from the University of Berlin. This is from yesterday's ECM run. There's always a 24-hour delay with the University of Berlin getting these charts up. So this is from yesterday, 29th of December, for today. Currently, temperatures at 10 HPA. We know they're cold. We actually see the North Pole here, the North Pole itself, where we've got this black cross just here. So those are, again, the cold temperatures that we got at 10 HPA, going down to around minus 60 to minus 17 across the North Pole, especially on our side of the pole at the moment. This situation on the 2nd of January, 96 hours. So you see the ECM is also picking up on this warming at 10 HPA over Siberia. Again, not quite reaching southern stratospheric warming levels. It's at the moment, at that point, it's going up to around minus 30 to minus 25, something like that. So a little bit under what would be classed as a southern stratospheric warming, but it is a pretty significant warming of the stratosphere that's taking place over Siberia there at 96 hours. Looks like this is going to be refreshing, so that's quite annoying. There we go. So we're at 240 hours, which gets us to the 8th of January. Again, quite a significant warming of the stratosphere from Siberia and sort of moving over towards the Canadian side of the Arctic as well, sort of moving out of Siberia over to the Canadian side of the Arctic. At this point, it's still cold over the North Pole itself with those blue colours over the North Pole itself. If it follows the GFS route, this eventually sort of moderates but pushes into Greenland and displaces these blue colours of cold temperatures, 10 HPA, a little bit more towards the northern parts of Russia. So a displacement of the polar vortex is possible here, but probably not a total destruction and a total obliteration. 30 HPA, so going lower down from the stratosphere towards the troposphere. It's still in the stratosphere, but it is closer to the troposphere, so going lower down in 240 hours, which again is the 8th of January. Less of a warming in evidence over Siberia, and really quite cold at over North Pole and over much of the Arctic as well with those blue colours. So these events will tend to start at 10 HPA and then go down to 30 HPA later on. And then finally going up to 1 HPA, which is as far as we can go in the stratosphere. Very, very long way up. This is the current situation. So we already have a bit of a warming taking place over sort of Scandinavia and sort of Western Russia, actually, with those red colours appearing there at 1 HPA. And if we go through, this is for today, if we go through to the 8th of January, though, 240 hours, day 10, we've got very intense red colours then appearing over the North Pole itself and covering most of the Arctic. You'll notice a big warming taking place in the next 10 days at 10 HPA. to 1 HPA, I should say. Now, the reason we look at this is too far up to actually have an effect on the troposphere. So this will have no effect on the troposphere in its own right. But the reason we look at this is that sometimes when you get a dramatic warming of the stratosphere at 1 HPA, and that is a very dramatic warming, in around a week or two afterwards, you can sometimes find a significant warming taking place at 10 HPA. And then 30 HPA and eventually getting into the troposphere. So this can sometimes be a precursor to a sudden stratospheric warming a week or two afterwards, when you get this level of warming at 1 HPA at the very, very top of the stratosphere. So again, we'll be keeping a very close eye on what's happening in the stratosphere. The moment there's no sign of a sudden stratospheric warming, really there is going to be quite a sudden stratospheric warming 10 HPA. There is going to be a fairly significant warming over Siberia, not reaching sudden stratospheric warming levels, though, may well displace the polar vortex at its roots by day 10. So that's the latest in terms of what's happening in the stratosphere, and we will keep a close eye on it, of course, over the coming days. So moving on to weather for the next week to 10 days. So these are the 500 millibar high anomaly flowcharts from Penn State University for the next 7 to 10 days. We've got the ECMWF on the top, and the GFS, which we'll have a look in a moment, is on the bottom. 500 millibars is an area in the atmosphere high pressure and low pressure are being moved around by the jet stream running above. Red extrapolates high pressure, blue to low pressure. We can see that with the ECM, and this takes us to around virtually to the 10th of January, probably to the 9th, but more or less for the first 10 days of January. We can see with the ECM we've got low pressure up to the north, so the polar vortex and all of the low pressure up around Greenland. That sort of area is very much still in business through the first 10 days of January, with a strong westerly flow and jet stream coming across the Atlantic, indicated by those tight lines. But we also have a ridge of above average height, some quite significant high pressure sitting just over and to the south of the country. It's a very zonal setup, but not overly unsettled. The wettest weather would be in the north and west, close to the jet stream in those areas of low pressure. But to be honest, through most parts of the country, actually we're dominated by high pressure. So there would be a reasonable amount of dry weather there in the 7 to 10 day time frame. And still probably relatively mild as well. And the GFS is very similar. Again, it has this big ridge of above average heights over and to the west and south of the country, has below average heights up to the north, low pressure to the north, strong jet stream coming out of the Atlantic, but generally to the north of the country, brings the most unsettled conditions to northern Scotland, many places relatively dry under that ridge of high pressure and quite mild. So this is a situation of being relatively mild, yes, but also quite dry as well during the 7 to 10 day time frame. These are the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles for the next couple of weeks. So we're looking at Ipswich today. This is another suggested location for this part of the video. If you would like to have your local town or city featured within this part of the video, then you can ask us to feature it through the comments at GazWeatherVids, or you can email us at gazweathervids@gmail.com, or you can ask us through our Facebook and Twitter accounts. We're always happy to feature your local town or city within this section of the video. So, starting off very mild at the moment with the upper air temperatures, though it has got a little bit cooler on the surface actually in the last few hours. We are getting a slight inversion now, I think, which is where it's warmer aloft than it is down on the surface, particularly for England and Wales. The temperature, upper air temperatures stay above average into the new year and then drop by the end of the week into the weekend. A little bit of a cold snap over the weekend, only lasts a few hours, and then temperatures are lifting back up again, but it will be a bit colder at the end of the week and into the weekend. Then through the second week of January up to the middle of the month, so still generally trending a little bit above average actually even then, but there is quite a bit of scatter showing up there, and we have got several members of the GFS ensemble through the second week of January, including the operational run, I'm going to show you in a moment, that do try to go quite cold, but of course we can't ignore these milder options up here. Precipitation wise, lots of dry weather through the first week of January. There's for Ipswich very little in way of precipitation. Just a little bit of rain there around the 3rd to the 4th of January as a cold front drops southwards and introduces that little cold snap. But overall, the first week of January looks quite dry. Second week of January, a little bit more unsettled. That's very extended range. Even then, the precipitation spikes aren't particularly dramatic. So this does look like a significantly drier first half to January than we've been used to and we've seen for several months. So we are going into a drier period of weather, no doubt about that. Temperature anomalies from the 30th of December to 7th of January, only a little bit above average. That's probably a bit of a surprise given this ensemble graph is solidly above average with the upper air temperature, except that slight cold snap. I think that's a sign that there's an inversion going on at the moment. So on the surface, it's not as warm as you might think, or not as mild as you might think it would be, given the upper air temperatures. It also factors in a little cold snap that's coming up at the weekend. So overall, just a little bit above average with a temperature anomaly from the 30th of December to the 7th of January. Very mild for much of Scandinavia, northern and eastern Europe, and also western parts of Russia. Precipitation anomalies continue to look very dry. So western Scotland and far north Scotland, a little bit above average with rainfall there. Otherwise, it's quite significantly drier than average, especially so for England and Wales. Excuse me. So this is how the GFS 6 o'clock run looking for Thursday. Southwesterlies in on Thursday, will be quite a mild day. And then a cold front drops southwards on Friday. That brings a band of rain with it. That rain becomes light and patchy as it moves southeastwards, but it will introduce colder air from the north. So that's our little cold snap that we have Friday, Saturday. Winds turn into the north. Very quickly, this high pressure is ridging in from the west, cutting off that northerly, but for a while it'll be quite cold. There could be some wintry showers across Scotland and some northeastern parts of England. By Sunday, we're under high pressure. This will be quite a cold ridge. So for England and Wales in particular, I would expect quite significant overnight frost this coming weekend. For Scotland and Northern Ireland, we're introducing southwesterly winds already, so begin to go a bit milder in the north as early as Sunday. But for England and Wales, quite a coldish weekend. By Monday, we're all back into this west-southwesterly, so early next week goes quite a bit milder, and then low pressure starts to deepen to the north of Scotland, brings outbreaks of rain, particularly to northern parts of the country. Maybe quite wet and windy there at daytime, which is Thursday the 9th of January, and going a bit colder as well. Winds swinging back into the northwest, trying to pull some colder air in from the north. After that, the GFS wants to start to ridge its high pressure back in from off the Atlantic, and it's having a go at getting itself up to Scandinavia. That's a Scandinavian high that we've got there. This is very extended range stuff, mind you. This is Saturday, 11th of January. But that is a Scandinavian high that we've got there. It's trying to ridge our high pressure into that Scandinavian high. So this is all probably quite dry, but cold and frosty type stuff. What happens is that the two ridges do merge, but they sort of do it over Denmark and the North Sea rather than over Scandinavia. So we don't pull in any particular easterly flow. But again, this would be dry, cold and frosty. Maybe very cold actually with this. I think you could get some quite hard overnight frost. And probably freezing fog as well, which would probably linger all day. And if that happened, daytime temperatures would struggle to get much above freezing. So this is a proper cold interlude, albeit it's from an anticyclone rather than sort of easterly winds coming out of Russia. But certainly that will probably be the coldest period of the winter so far. That's Monday the 13th of January under that ridge. I think that will be the coldest period of the winter so far. Then as we finish up with this GFS run, caveat with all this is that it's very extended range stuff, of course, but as we finish up with this GFS run, we find that the ridge is beginning to move southwards and starting to try and draw milder air back in from off the Atlantic, although quite a significant area of high pressure sitting across Eastern Europe and Western Russia at 1,040 millibars. Little bit of a Siberian high actually there. So beginning to get a little bit more interesting synoptically anyway through this GFS run by the middle of January. There are definite possibilities from that things could start to get quite a lot colder. GEM looks like this. So again, Thursday we're bringing up a milder southwesterly type wind, and then on Friday cold front drops in from the Atlantic, bringing probably some rain, and behind that we're pulling cold winds from the north, so a little bit of a cold snap Friday through to Saturday. This is enough to bring snow showers probably to northern and eastern parts of Scotland, or wintry showers running down the eastern side of the country. Then the ridge builds in, cuts off the northerly, but under the ridge it's quite cold, so certainly significant overnight frost this weekend. Not long though before the west-southwesters are back in. This is Monday, 6th of January. We're back into this west-southwesterly flow. And as we run up towards day 10, increasingly unsettled actually with the GM. So low pressure starting to dive in from off the Atlantic. I think that's probably a bit overdone. The GM does have a tendency to overdo low pressure, so I think that's probably a little bit more unsettled than it will actually be in reality. And then the ECM for again, we're drawing up this southwesterly on Thursday, so quite a mild day. On Thursday, cold front drops in from the North Atlantic on Friday, bringing a band of rain, and then it turns colder behind it. Less of a northerly with the ECM, so it really is a case that even by Saturday, with this one, we're drawing in a westerly wind. We never pull down any cold air from the north, really, with the ECM, so that cancels the cold snap. I think that's probably a bit of a mild outlier. We go through to Sunday, and again looking quite mild, mainly dry in the south. Early next week, west-southwesterlies are re-establishing, so as we run up to day 10, again, a little bit on the unsettled side, relatively mild, winds coming in from the west or from the southwest too. These options are on the table within the ESAM ensembles for day 10, but let's just go back to the weekend if we can. So let's go back to, we'll see when the cold snap is supposed to happen on Friday. So that would, let's say it's Saturday the 4th of January. So if we go there to the 4th of January, we can see that these are the options that we got for the 4th of January. So we've got 15 members of the ensembles, including the control and the operational room. A little bit surprising, actually. It has a high pressure just out to the west, so we're almost drawing in a cold snap there, but just on the periphery of it. Most of that's going down from Scandinavia. 13 with high pressure sitting over top of the country, so again that's keeping any cold air from the north at bay. 9 has the ridge just out to the west. That would draw down some colder air from the north. Another 9 just here with high pressure just out to west. Again, that's keeping most of those northerly winds away from us, and 5 with again high pressure out to the north, so out to west I should say. The trough is, Scandinavia, so the northerly generally kept away from us. So the ECM actually is not keen on this little cold snap for Friday and Saturday. There is some doubt about that cold snap Friday to Saturday. We may not even get that. Actually going through the ECM operation run and its ensembles. In 10 days time, these are the options that we've got. This is the 9th of January, so 15 members of the ECM ensembles with low pressure out to the west, bring in a westerly wind, so that's a little bit more unsettled. 10 with low pressure up to the north, high pressure just out to the southwest. That's relatively mild, bit unsettled for the north, mainly dry for the south. Another 9 just here with high pressure over into the southwest, low pressure up to the north. That's a mild westerly scenario. 7 with a trough of low pressure over into the east of the country, bringing down quite chilly air from the north with that, and more unsettled. 6 with deep low pressure towards Greenland, Iceland, a high pressure over and just to the east of the country. Jet stream being pushed northwards. That's mainly dry and settled, probably quite frosty. And then 4 with low pressure out to the northwest, high pressure down to the southwest, and a bit weaker with the westerly flow. I think generally the ECM is mild up to sort of 10 days away, which is the 9th of January. 2 weeks time, these are the options that we've got, which is the 14th of January, taking us to the middle of the month. So we've got 18 members of the ECM ensembles with low pressure to our west, bringing in a westerly wind, unsettled and quite mild with those. Another 18 just here with high pressure sort of centred over the top of the country. So a more settled scenario, probably quite mild. And then 15 with high pressure up towards Scandinavia and bringing in probably quite a cold easterly. So it looks like generally the ECM ensembles are relatively mild up to 2 weeks out, but there is a significant minority option by the middle of January to be bringing in cold easterly winds via a Scandinavian high. Finally, with CFSV2, so these are 500 millibar heights broken down into week periods. The first week period takes us from the 30th of December to the 5th of January. The coming week is dominated by high pressure sitting more or less over the top of the country. Low pressure is up to the north. It's dry and relatively mild as well, although probably a little bit cooler than we've had in the past few days. The week 2 chart looks like this. It's the 6th to the 12th of January. Again, very similar. High pressure centre more or less over the country. Low pressure is up to the north, so that's pretty dry and relatively mild as well. Week 3 is the 13th to the 19th of January. The ridge then is sort of centred over the west of Germany, perhaps, with low pressure out to the west. That could be starting to draw up a little bit more of a continental flow. So that could actually be a little bit colder via frost and fog, I would have thought. And then finally, we finish up in week 4, the 20th to 26th of January, with high pressure strengthening, this time towards southern Scandinavia, so around Denmark and up to the south of Greenland, the south of Sweden and Norway. So again, that is drawing in a continental flow. Again, it's very dry, but it could be quite cold via frost and fog. Temperature anomalies in weekend look like that. The 30th of December to the 5th of January, milder than average. And we go through to week 2, which also looks very significantly milder than average as well. 6th to the 12th of January, very mild start to the new year, definitely. You see, week 3 is not as mild. This is the 13th to the 19th of January. It's still a little bit above average, but certainly the anomaly is reducing quite a lot. So it does suggest that the reposition of that ridge could start to draw in more of a colder continental type flow. And then week 4, which is the 20th to the 26th of January, looking just a little bit milder than average again. Notice, though, America plunging into the freezer as January progresses. Look how cold it is across Canada and North America through this week 4, 20th, 26th of January. Gets colder and colder across America if the CFS is right as January progresses. So that will be something noteworthy to keep an eye on. Finally, precipitation anomaly is drier than average in the week ahead, but dominated by high pressure, so of course you would expect that. Week 2 actually looks a little bit more unsettled than you might expect, particularly so for Scotland, where it goes a bit wetter than average, with nearer normal precipitation elsewhere. Week 3, signals weakening, of course, now close to average with precipitation in week 3, and then week 4 is also close to average, 20th, 26th of December. As the signal gets ever weaker, the further out we go. So it is quite mixed in the sort of longer term. We're going to be having to keep a close eye on what's happening with the stratosphere, I think, in the coming days and weeks. As far as the weather for the first 10 days of January is concerned, so that's the period that's sort of within the semi-reliable time frame anyway. So it looks like it's going to be relatively settled, really. There will be rain occasionally, but relatively settled for the first 10 days of January. And alternating the air masses, so going to be a few days will be quite mild, I think. Other days will be quite cold. We may have that little cold snap around Friday and Saturday. And then if the ridge rebuilds through the second week of January, we might start going into a more genuinely frosty scenario then. The main thing, though, continues to be the fact that we are breaking out of the deluge and going into a much drier spell of weather. So, good news for anybody who's been affected by flooding. Right, that's it for your video for today. Just one more video coming up tomorrow. That'll be another week, 10 day, and then we're done with the videos for the year. Tomorrow, New Year's Eve, of course. So, come back for our New Year's Eve final video of 2019 tomorrow. But that's all for now, and thanks for watching.